In Argentina, human rights organizations denounced the government's repressive policies and demanded the release of the 16 people after last week's protest. The UNICEF Regional Director for the Middle East and North Africa stated that the conflict in Gaza has become a war against children. In Thailand, the Senate passed a marriage equality bill, a move that paves the way for the country to become the first in Southeast Asia to legalize same-sex marriage. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Argentina, human rights organizations denounced the repressive policies of the government of Javier Milei and demanded the release of the 16 people who remain in prison after last week's protest against the law of bases in Congress. In dissent, social movements, trade union, political and human rights groups called for a new mobilization in which they plan to reach the vicinity of the Casa Rosada. This action follows the demonstrations that took place on Monday to claim the closure of the pending cases against the 16 detainees, as well as denouncing the violations of the right to social protest. The Peruvian state defended on Monday before the Inter-American Court of Human Rights a controversial bill that specifies the application and scope of the crime against humanity and war crimes in the Indian nation's legislation. During a public hearing to request provisional measures in Barrios Altos and La Cantuta cases considered massacres against the civilian population, the representatives of the Peruvian state dismissed the accusations. State agent Cesar Pastor Briceño pointed out that in the records of convictions for Barrios Altos and La Cantuta, it can be verified that none was treated as crimes against humanity or war crimes, but for common criminal offenses, aggravated homicide, kidnappings, and injuries. The proposal is promoted by Fujimorism. The government of Venezuela has strongly rejected the process of expropriation of the company Citgo Petroleum Corporation, which continues to be carried out by the United States authorities under the pretext of a judicial process of forced sale of shares clearly contrary to the law. Through her X account, Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez expressed her rejection of the theft of Citgo instrumentalized by the U.S. government. She added that Venezuela will not recognize any type of fraudulent transaction and that the people in a great national union will defend their patrimony and apply implacable justice to those who plotted this plunder against the Republic. Colombian authorities report that the FARC dissident, aka Austin, is the alleged mastermind behind the attack perpetrated against the father of Colombian Vice President Francia Marquez. On Monday evening, the commander of the military forces, General Helder Giraldo, confirmed and provided some details about the serious incidents that occurred in Jamundi, a municipality in the department of Valle del Cauca, southwest of Colombia. Likewise, Giraldo announced an economic reward for anyone who informs of Austin's whereabouts. Security authorities reported that the attack was overcome thanks to intelligence and prevention work.
We have identified an alias Austin, head of a terrorist support network, along with 2 other suspects who allegedly participated in this attack directly.
The Vice President of Nicaragua, Rosario Murillo, announced on Monday that a meeting will be held with the entire national system of prevention and attention to disasters in order to evaluate possible climate incidences in the country. In this regard, Murillo informed that this week the verification process to determine the levels of organization to prevent or attend natural tragedies caused by climatic incidences will begin. The Vice President recalled that the rainy season, which Central America is facing, brings a lot of water that in excess generates considerable emergencies. The executive made a detailed summary of the damage caused by climate change in the world and reiterated that the lives of the Nicaraguan people will be protected under all circumstances.
These floods or droughts occur all over the world, and we see projected on global television how families are evacuated among rivers of waters and sometimes using canoes, also for rescue, boats for rescue, because the streets, avenues, parks, squares become large reservoirs.
Meanwhile, Salvadoran authorities reported on Monday that 11 people have died following the rains and floods affecting the country. The last report on death provided by the National Civil Police stated that at least 3 people died buried by a landslide that fell in the neighborhood of El Centro in Tacuba, Aguachapan. Meanwhile, 2 men died when a tree fell on the motorcycle they were riding on Las Llamas Highway in Aguachapan also. The authorities also said that several incidents were attended: more than 200 fallen trees, 42 landslides, over 145 obstructed roads, 6 damaged walls, 4 vehicles directly affected, 6 urban floods, and 51 flooded houses. On the other hand, in Ecuador, the Association of Municipalities requested the government of President Daniel Noboa to declare a state of emergency in 29 cities after the death toll amounted to 7, with 18 people missing. Heavy rainfalls have been flooding 10 provinces and 29 cities since the weekend. The Secretary of Risk Management revealed that Chimborazo, Cotopaxi, and Tungurahua are among the most affected. In addition to the dead and missing, reports unfolded 22 injured due to heavy rainfalls, which have forced school activities to be suspended in those provinces. In this context, the national government has been present in the areas addressing the situation.
The MIES is here, the MTOP is here. We count on the presence of health, risks, public administration secretaries, the Ministry of Energy and Mines for the dam issue affecting us. In general, the whole social axis is here. We won't leave until we reach ground zero. We verify what the real effects are there, quantify the damages, and be able to provide the necessary resources so that the family and the province can return to normality.
And in Mexico, the National Meteorological Service reported a potential tropical cyclone located in the Atlantic Ocean, only 275 kilometers from Yucatan. The weather event already registered maximum sustained winds of up to 65 kilometers per hour. Authorities added it will bring heavy rains in Veracruz, Puebla, Campeche, and other cities in the southeast of Mexico. The United States National Hurricane Center reported that they are tracking 2 areas of interest in the Atlantic, one of them over the Gulf of Mexico with 70% possibility of hurricane formation, and the other is South Florida. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Tuesday, the Palestinian Prisoner Society denounced the detention of more than 600 Palestinian children by the Israeli occupation forces in the occupied West Bank since October 7th. In a statement, the organization informed that the minors abducted in Israeli occupation prisons are subjected to all kinds of punishment, being subjected to abuse, torture, and medical crimes. The society also added that during the first day of the Muslim holiday, Eid al-Adha, the Zionist army detained and beat a group of children east of Ramallah. The authorities condemned the genocidal actions of Netanyahu's government against the Palestinian people and called on the international community to address the situation in the Gaza Strip. In this context, UNICEF Regional Director for the Middle East and North Africa, Adel Jor, said that the conflict in Gaza has become a war against children. The official made the statement on Monday at an event held in Tokyo. Jod added that there has not been any Israeli attack against the Strip where a child has not been killed or injured. The regional director stressed that Gaza has a very young population concentrated in a very small area. That is one of the reasons why a ceasefire cannot be postponed. The UN official assured that Gaza is now a graveyard of children. The Palestinian government denounced the alleged Israeli tactical pause in the war in Rafah as another lie by occupation forces to impose a false narrative and prevent a temporary truce and the delivery of humanitarian aid. In this sense, the Palestinian authorities stated that the alleged daily pause in military activities between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. local time is false, and added that the occupation forces have not ceased their operations, among them the ongoing destruction of the Rafah crossing, one of the main entry points of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. In this context, the Palestinian Health Ministry reported a death of more than 37,000 people killed by the Israeli offensive against the Gaza Strip, while another 85,000 people have been injured since the beginning of these genocidal aggressions. The latest attack left at least 10 people dead and 73 wounded. Many of the victims are still trapped under the rubble, as rescue and civil defense teams have not been able to reach them due to the continuous aggressions of Israel in the coastal enclave. And on Monday night, 9 civilians were killed in Israeli army airstrikes targeting civilians east of the southern Gaza Strip city of Rafah. According to a medical source at the European hospital in Gaza, 9 lifeless bodies and several wounded, some in critical conditions, were transferred to Han Yunis Hospital, south of the Strip. In addition to these events, 2 more civilians were killed and others injured in a drone bombing in Rafah. Another tragic incident left 1 civilian dead and multiple people injured, including children and women, in a shelling in the Kirbat al-Adas area, north of the city. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East denounced on Monday that 193 of its workers have been killed in Gaza, where attacks by Israeli forces continue. The agency has assured that the number of murder officials since October 2023 is the highest on record. Through its X account, UNRWA has classified Gaza as one of the most dangerous places in the world for humanitarian workers. However, the agency highlighted the commitment of its members who continue to work to support families and provide aid amid dire humanitarian crisis. Also in Palestine, the United Nations World Food Programme warned of the possibility that southern Gaza will soon reach the same catastrophic levels of hunger that were previously seen in the north. WFP Deputy Executive Director Carl Scow, after a 2-day visit to Gaza, said that the persistence of a hostile operating environment makes it almost impossible for humanitarian operations to deliver desperately needed food aid. He also informed that the situation in the south of Gaza was quickly deteriorating and that in order to get to the people, they drove through rivers of wastewater. The WFP official said that other than providing humanitarian help, they need to start spreading hope by supporting the water cleaning and the basic healthcare needs. Once again, thousands of Israelis took to the streets of occupied Jerusalem to demand the immediate resignation of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Security forces brutally repressed protesters, arresting at least 9 of them. Demonstrators surrounded the Knesset venue and changed their slogan to demand Netanyahu's deposition for a call to overthrowing the tyrant. Protesters ratified that a request for early elections cannot be postponed and deemed as crucial the need to reach an agreement with the Palestinian resistance movement, Hamas. The riot broke through the police barriers and headed towards the residence of the Prime Minister, but the security forces of the Zionist regime violently blocked the advance. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin American and Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Thailand, on Tuesday, the Senate passed a marriage equality bill, a move that paves the way for the country to become the first in Southeast Asia to legalize same-sex marriage. The measure got approved with 130 votes from the 152 members in attendance and will now need the King's endorsement to become law. Following this authorization, the legislation will come into force 120 days after its publication in the Royal Gazette. Thailand's bill amends the country's civil code and calls marriage a partnership between two people without specifying their gender. It also grants LGBTQ couples inheritance and adoption rights. After the legislation's passage, hundreds of supporters gathered in downtown Bangkok to celebrate what they label as a monumental step forward. A day before his departure for the first tour of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea in 24 years, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a strategic resolution with the nation's government. In the document, the president orders to accept the proposal of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs previously agreed with federal bodies interested in signing the agreement. He further recommends to consider the signing of the treaty to the highest level. Previously, Putin wrote in an article issued on the Kremlin website that the DPRK and Russia will build up in conjunction the security architecture of Eurasia, and both will counteract Western sanctions. An informal summit of European Union leaders in Brussels ended on Tuesday without agreement on the distribution of the EU positions. European heads of states and government met in Brussels for the first time since the European elections to take stock of the results and discuss possible candidates for 3 important positions. However, 27 leaders of the bloc failed to reach a formal agreement on the political leadership for the next 5 years, even when the current president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, seems still encouraged to revalidate her mandate. It should be noted that the formal summit will be held between June 27th and the 28th.
But there is no agreement tonight at this stage. The political parties are playing a role, and this is natural in such a political moment. They made proposals, and we'll have the occasion in the days to come to work further and to prepare the decisions that we need to make. I would like to insist that will take place next week.
On Tuesday, the terrorist group Daesh claimed responsibility for recent attacks in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where local authorities announced the beheading of several Christians. In this sense, the spokesman for the Democratic Republic of the Congo's armed forces confirmed that the Daesh had taken responsibility for the killing of 60 Christians, including an officer of the Congolese army. It should be noted that the terrorist group killed more than 150 people since the beginning of June, and precisely in view of the difficult situation, the head of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, denounced the persecution suffered by the Congolese Christians.
Painful news continues to arrive of clashes and massacres carried out in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. I appeal to the national authorities and international communities to do everything possible to bring an end to the violence and to safeguard the lives of civilians.
On Tuesday in NBA basketball, the Boston Celtics won their 18th championship in the 5th game of the final series. In this sense, Boston consolidates its position as a team that has won the most championships in the National Basketball League. Precisely, the Celtics defeated the Dallas Mavericks at home and achieved a success that eluded them on the 2022 season. It is worth mentioning that player Jaylen Brown was named the 2024 NBA Finals MVP after they won their latest title. Precisely with 18th trophy, they've ended a championship drought that dates back to 2008.
And now it's my honor to present to the Boston Celtics the 2024 Larry O'Brien Trophy of the NBA Championship.
On the other hand, Boston franchise player Jason Tatum, as they locked up their league record 18th championship, also materialized his first championship win in exactly his 7th season in the league. Tatum has played his entire career in Boston, and the 2024 championship was built around him. Precisely, Tatum's first trip to the finals was a loss in the 2022 finals, falling in 6 games to the Golden State Warriors. And the 2024 NBA Final Championship won by Boston brought about a remarkable fact when Dominican Republic player Al Horford became the 10th Latin American-born player to win an NBA championship. In this sense, the veteran player talked about achieving his greatest goal in his 17th NBA season.
I can't believe it. I still can't believe it, fella. I mean, we did it. We're here. But I can't believe it. This is just how I pictured it here at the Garden with our fans, everybody together. This is just how I saw it 8 years ago. This is how I saw it 8 years ago. Wick knows about it. Wick knows about the ring 8 years ago. Yes, sir.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.